Greetings, blessings. June 1st, garden updates. A lot is happening very quickly, transitioning from nothing happening. Well, everything was happening. It just seems like nothing's happening because everything grows so slow because of the fluctuations. But now that the temps have been stable for a week, things are growing. So let's run it through. I've transplanted out all of the tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. So around the perimeter of the garden is all tomato plants. We'll go take a look at the eggplants and the pepper plants. All of the garlic is coming up beautifully. The potatoes are coming up down along this whole row pretty beautifully. See right there. That's from my own saved potatoes, the German butterball. Pathway. I've really heaped the grass in here, deep layer. We're going into a drought earlier than last year as well. Right here, where doesn't seem like there's anything coming up, is some sweet corn, and to the other side of this wooden pole here is Abenaki flint corn, good for making cornmeal. All of these are the Jerusalem artichokes, 12 to 18 foot tall sunflower with an edible tuber. Those were also main food staple crop for the Abenaki people who used to inhabit this land. This whole bed, all potatoes coming up. There's also Jerusalem artichokes coming up in this bed because that's where they were last year. Then I moved them back to here. But they go so deep in the ground, it's hard to get them all. But that actually makes me happy because now I know that this potato bed isn't a monocrop. And when I come to harvest some potatoes, I'll get an extra harvest of Jerusalem artichoke tubers that can be sold for people to eat or plant themselves. More potatoes coming up. Potatoes coming up intermixed with the garlic. It seems like it's gonna work. Stay tuned. I did potatoes in this bed last year, and same thing. I guess I didn't get all the potatoes. There was a lot of potatoes in this bed, and there was just probably a lot that were far deep down. So potatoes are coming up again. I intentionally planted potatoes with garlic that was already growing here in this bed. And in this bed, I only planted garlic and didn't intend for their potatoes to be in this bed, and they came up. So we'll see how garlic and potato interplanting works. Onto this little tunnel here, peppers all the way down. They're adjusting to the heat, but I thought it would be cool to put them in there so when we get our first frost, I can throw the cover over and try to keep them going for a little bit longer. We've got some garlic down at the end of this bed. That was just all of the smallest bulbs. So I didn't plant those out for seed. I just planted those out to be sold as green garlic, eaten by myself and family, or maybe we'll harvest them as fresh, uncured, smaller bulbs. Down this bed, we got a lot going on. It's arugula. Radishes got harvested. Some radishes are left over. I'm gonna save seed from. Overwintered lettuce. A new succession of radishes. All the way down back at the end is some nice lettuce. This bed, garlic. We got the beans are coming up after 13 days. They took to germinate. Spinach, saving seed from, and some peppers, more peppers going down this whole row. There's not too much going on in this row right here. There's going to be some flowers, some amaranth, and some other good flowers. There's some Oregon snow peas that I'm just kind of letting do their thing. They've been stuck through all the fluctuations, so I might just try and save seed off of those and not even harvest for food or sale. That's my favorite pea. Then there's also elderberry cuttings down this row. Right here and right over there are the next succession of beans, which should be coming up around June 8th. More garlic, there's some yarrow. I'm gonna be putting out the cucumber transplants onto this trellis in a few days. There's currant cuttings all intermixed throughout the garden. Rooting them as 1-year cuttings, then they can be stool layered to continue to multiply them, or they can be dug up and transplanted to their forever home. Lots of options. And there's also strawberries intermixed with this garlic row. All the potatoes are coming up nicely. This was the garlic, was planted in this in the fall. Then I did a oat cover crop, let that grow up. And then when I went to go plant the eggplants, I cut back the oat cover crop and transplanted in the eggplants. So now there was a live mulch, and I cut that back and used that as the mulch. So then the garlic will come out, and then there will still be eggplant in that row. Same thing on this one, just without the oat cover crop. There was garlic transplanted in the eggplants. The eggplants will come out, and then, the garlic will come out and the eggplants can continue to grow. And I'm gonna trellis the eggplants up this trellis right here. I'm gonna run a string between these two sticks to trellis these eggplants. Like I said, cucumbers are going on this one, and there's also, like I said, tomatoes around the entire perimeter. So tomatoes down this whole row, and then tomatoes down this whole row. As I kind of talked about in the last video, they're going to share this trellis situation here, to be continued. And then I just accounted for all of the garlic. It's all here. I know which varieties are where. And yeah, really excited about harvesting garlic. We got some zucchini seedling coming up right here. And that'll take over this whole bed. Green zucchini squash, they get huge. And this is all variety of soft-neck garlic. This is Italian red, hard-neck garlic. Whole bunch of calendula planted from seeds, some yarrow transplanted from this field. There's yarrow all through here, but it doesn't get a chance to prosper because there's so much competition. So if you just uproot the little tiny yarrow and put it where there isn't as much competition, then you'll have a whole yarrow plant. That's what happened in the garden when I made it. Some echinacea starter plant and some wild strawberry. The okra plant, first year growing okra. Just one, trying it out. There is some more zucchini squash gonna be right here, seedling coming up. That's just garlic to keep away deer. I don't think I'm gonna pull that. I'm just gonna leave that there and let it naturalize. There's some more sweet corn coming up in this mound. The wildflower patches are doing amazing. The pollinators are loving it. And then some more green zucchini squash coming up. The red clover naturally here, doing great. Good for the pollinators. Anti-cancer properties. Make a nice tea with the dry herb. And some more calendula from seed. So lots of options. I already have the fall crops started inside. Some cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and what was the other one? Cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and kale. And then in a few days I will be starting some broccoli. So it's quite amazing that as soon as the summer heat gets here and things finally start growing, we're almost already starting to plan for the fall. And that is where my production will ramp up, is later in the season, since we have such a slow start up here on this cold hill, the elevation and fluctuations. But we will prosper and adapt. So let's take a quicker look, or a deeper look, at some of these beds that I just explained. Here's the garlic. This is the 67 West. I called it that because I got it from a farm stand just off the side of the road, and that was the road. All the potatoes coming up from last year. After these four, this whole bed is Vermont Unknown number 2. Then it goes some lilac garlic intermixed with lettuce. Then it goes the Vermont Unknown number 1, and then the Hadley Mass garlic into the Spanish Roja. Then we've got Grandpa's Choice into the Vietnamese, and then the Mighty garlic. And back out there is Montana Giant, Romanian Red, Italian Red, Williamstown Softneck. Over on the far end is the Florida Softneck. This one is EA Hardneck. And then I also have Red Russian Hardneck in here. So a lot of different kinds of garlic. The peppers and all the tomatoes got mixed up. So we're just gonna figure out what's what when the harvests come. And I'm working on getting better than that currently with labeling the seedlings. And I know the 2 varieties of eggplant that there will be are Pink Tongue Long and Rosa Bianca. Those are the only 2 varieties of eggplant, but there should be like 4 or 5 different varieties of peppers, and there's anywhere from 7 to 10 different varieties of tomatoes that will be here. Asparagus coming up, 3rd year. Got some edible shoots off of it, so that was nice. Potatoes again. Lettuce doing good with the radish. This is all some, couldn't figure out what this was in the last video because I'd never grown this variety before, but it's Astro Arugula. And it's supposed to be heat tolerant arugula, but I'm honestly not digging its flavor. So what I am digging though is this wild arugula that overwintered in -32 and just comes back naturally every year because it reseeds itself. So those are kind of more of the crops that I'm interested in. But we'll see how the Astro arugula does. Haven't really given it a chance yet. This is the winter density and the red oak leaf lettuce. Doing wonderfully. That's going for first market. Some royal burgundy bean transplants. And then these pathways right here are the ones that were direct sown coming up from 13 days ago. Next succession over there, like I said, by June 8th. And then I'm trying to figure out a third succession of beans here. More lettuce is going to be planted here. It's already direct sown and it's actually germinating. Sorry, the glare from the sun is so bad. This video is probably not coming out too well. But anyways, all lettuce right here, redirect sown. The Mizuna and the arugula, it got taken over by some plantain weed action, so I had to weed out all the plantain. The Mizuna was going to seed, and I left the patch of arugula that was doing good. And the Mizuna, I left some that's going to seed so I could save the seed off of that. And some basil has been direct sown in this area. Some elderberry cutting, more red oak leaf lettuce. So just in this bed alone is garlic, potatoes, Oregon snow peas, and there's lettuce around the garlic. I don't know if you can see that, but there you go. So it's about keeping your beds planted and diverse as possible. You can do that when you're on this small of a scale. And yeah, I'm definitely trying to tap in more to what's best for the most production while keeping it as diversely planted at the same time. But it seems like it can be a fine line, but it also could not be a fine line. So depending on how you want to see it. But there's a middle pathway here, and there's some extra room because tomatoes, but then there will be this gap of a pathway. And I'm thinking about doing the sweet potato slips down this whole row. They'll make a nice ground cover and the tomatoes will grow up. We'll see. But yeah, so that is June 1st update. Stay tuned for everything. Got some raspberries that I hand selected. This is a nice everbearing raspberry that I found in the wild, and it puts on a small crop in the spring and it puts on a heavy fall crop all the way into like the second week of October, which is really cool for around here because it starts getting pretty cold by that time. So One Love Wholeness, it's JsGrassFedGarden, June 1st updates, and the pasture has been mowed. I stopped like kind of where that tree is, kind of last time where we did our updates, and I'm gonna leave that back side for there's some deer that roam through here and they like to lay down there, sleep in there for some protection. Letting the grass grow up is also good for pasture birds, the butterflies, the pollinators. So we'll leave that back one, but this whole one, I'm gonna let that regrow for about till June 9th. And that'll be exactly a month to the date that I started to grow. We're about to get some rain. I started to mow. We're about to get some rain, even though I said we're going into a drought. Going based off last year's records, June is our driest month. And like from the end of May going into the whole entire month of June, that is our driest month. And then depending on how the summer goes, we could continue to go into drought through July, but usually by August, September, we always start to get our fall rains. So we'll see how that all pans out. Thank you for watching if you're still here, and we will see you on the next one. One love, wholeness, and thank you for watching JsGrassFedGarden.